Okay, welcome to Bloodbath Tactics. This is our first podcast. We had this vision of a podcast that we can, teach and just talk about competitive Warhammer. Part of my vision was to have a show every day and just kind of talk about the matchups I've had. I've been a competitive player, not as long as my guest here, Tony. Actually, he's going to be our co-host, Tony here. But I got into it. I've been playing for 15 years, and I've loved every second of it. Tony, you want to talk a little bit about yourself and about your journey through competitive play and how you got there, and then we can get into the team that we are now.
Sure. Well, so you brought up when we got into it. So I got into Warhammer. My parents lost me at West Edmonton Mall. I was 9 years old. They were in a store, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go next door to the Magic Card store. Go get some Magic cards." And in between my parents and the Magic Card store was Games Workshop. And in that Games Workshop, they had racks and racks of beautiful armies and that giant Space Marine in the window. And as a little 9-year-old, I got sucked in. My parents could not find me because I was not where I said.
Yeah. And you don't know much about them either. Like, you don't know that they have 4 lungs and
I
2
still remember.
hearts.
So, and this was, I got in right at the end of second as the 3rd edition starter set was coming out. So my introduction was 5 Tactical Marines and a Land Speeder versus 20 Dark Eldar Warriors, which is not a great fight for the Dark Eldar Warriors. But that's how the starter set was.
Yeah, they're pretty paper thin. So
yeah, and just, love or hate Games Workshop sales tactics, but being able to play that game and have a competent narrator hold your hand through it was a really good way. And so from the age of 9, it's I was hooked.
And you didn't just stop there. Obviously you didn't stop there. What I mean to say is it kind of took off and you went into competitive play as a kid.
Well, and I think I started competitive at the age of 14.
Okay, so you had a few years.
I had a few years to figure out how the game worked for sure.
Yeah.
And then at about, I think I was 14 when I played in the very first tournament hosted by Rob Custer. If we have any old-time Alberta viewers, they might know that name.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, he ran all the Warhammer stuff back when we were minors. And he ran it out of the Radisson Hotel, which is now 2 Trees. Thought that was weird.
What?
Yeah, there's a Radisson Hotel on 16th Ave.
Oh, honestly, I've lived here my whole life. I thought it still was the Radisson.
Double Tree.
Yeah. Double Tree. Okay.
By Hilton. So
all right.
There you go. The world moves along. Yeah. Shout out to that random.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so playing at those tournaments as a 14-year-old, and that was it was a very excellent learning experience. And the side note, the age demographics, I think, from 20 years ago have sort of changed. I remember as a 14-year-old, there was a lot of people in their mid-40s playing, and it was more of a older person's game to some degree. And then for what it's worth, I feel like today the average age has come down a bit, probably because the game has become so much more popular than it used to be. And between the video games and all the various social media stuff, just the reach of Warhammer and
they even got into the Universes Beyond from Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
So what that is like a whole separate set, and they play this type of game called Commander, which is like a 100-card singleton deck. So you only have one of every card, and they have pre-built of those decks. So you can play Necrons, you can play Chaos Space Marines, and Abaddon is your general.
Yeah.
Things like that. So they actually brought in that into Wizards of the Coast. They even brought in Doctor Who and everything else, but no, it's super fun. If you play all the decks together against each other, because you can play multiplayer games, it's super balanced.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah. I only played once.
Wizards of the Coast to make a more balanced game than GW.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that. Yeah. It's pretty quick, but
as you may be able to.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. And have you ever stopped along the way, or was it?
I did. At a certain point in my life, 15 years ago, I moved out to Ontario. I kept playing competitive out there for a bit, but I kind of got out of the game. I sat out 6th, 7th, and 8th edition. 6th and 7th edition were not the best from what I hear, so I feel like I missed the dark times.
Right.
Came back 8th, turned things around, not just the game, but GW stock price too.
Oh, yeah.
Side note, GW stock prices tripled or quadrupled over the last 5 years.
I think COVID helped.
Yes, it absolutely did.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I know even for me, right? Like, I got in before COVID, but, man, it gave me so much time to paint. I actually had time to paint a secret army that nobody else on the team would know about. Like, so I was Necrons. I've been Necrons since I was a kid, since, about 14 when I started playing. And I only had Necrons, and I always kept playing them. And when we were learning 9th edition, they were the new hotness too, because it was Space Marines and Necrons.
Oh, perfect time, because you got quality models for dirt cheap.
So I had a full codex. Everyone else had to use 8th edition rules in a 9th edition world, and I didn't have to.
No.
And the simple things like character enhancements and relics. That was a big thing from 8th to 9th.
Big shift, yeah.
Yeah. So I had the advantage. The fun thing about that was that because we had so much time, so I painted all my Necrons, and the funny thing about Necrons is that they're super easy to paint. So I had a little bit more painting time on my hands. Yeah. And what that included was, let's make a secret army of Death Guard, because I think they're the coolest army in the world. And shout out to Discussing Resilience podcast, because you guys are the ones inspiring this one now.
Shout out to
and they just talk about only Death Guard. They're friggin' awesome. They started a year ago now, or a little over a year, and they're doing great. And I learned a lot of my knowledge about Death Guard from them. Now, playing Death Guard, it was super cool. But what I did for a secret army was I got 2,000 points. I found a list I wanted from Goonhammer.
Yeah.
And then
We're all Power Gaming scumbags start.
Yeah, exactly.
Myself included.
Yeah, 100%. And when I looked at that list, I was like, this is cool. And I obviously want a list with Mortarion in it. Whatever it is, Mortarion needs to be in it. Yeah. And that's what we did. Nice. So I built a Mortarion, and I built everything else. And then right when I had the 2,000 complete, that's when I revealed it. And I revealed to our friend Curly. He was at his lake house, and I was like, hey, I got some surprise for us tomorrow. What? And I just showed him a picture of my fully painted Mortarion. And he goes, and just gasped, because it's like, how do you make a secret army in this time?
Well, that's the thing. To make a secret 2,000 point, you're talking 200 hours of a labor of love, if not more. Like,
and telling nobody.
I couldn't do that. I could not do that.
I don't even know how I did. I think I let it slip once, I'll be honest. It was around actually this time of the year, New Year's Eve, and I had a few cocktails. And, no, not cocktails. I don't drink those. Beers. And I let it slip to Carter, my brother.
No.
Yeah, I did. And then he's like, you have a secret Death Guard army? And I was like, yeah, well. And then, sure enough, years later, I still play them almost religiously.
They still terrify me.
Yeah. I love them. They're just my play style. Like, even when I played Magic, it was about mid-range styles.
Okay.
So you could have your basic archetypes in Magic is aggro, aggressive stance, mid-range, which is kind of both control-y and aggro, and then control. Yeah. So you have the three, and then you also have combo in there too. But that doesn't really apply to Warhammer as much, because, I mean, I guess Eldari kind of does more combos.
The scum gauge ends in blue.
Yeah, exactly. So... That's just a good point. But Death Guard's that perfect mid-range. Like, they're super slow, they're super tough, but when they get to you, they're really aggressive, and you got to be aggressive with them, but you have to know when to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And I've always been a good player when it came to mid-range, and that's always been my style.
Yeah.
So even going in a Necron, it was good, but they're more of that control deck. They're more at the sit back, and I can kind of maneuver where I need to be. I don't have to be super aggressive.
20 punches each later, Necron are still standing.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. And they kind of move... in spades. They kind of,
It's sort of interesting, because on face value, you almost think that Necron and Death Guard are similar lists, at least 9th edition version.
Sure.
Modern Necron has changed in 10th.
Mm-hmm.
But they both used to be very tough lists for different reasons.
Yeah. But always coming back.
Talking to someone who knows the difference between the two, obviously there are big differences.
Well, I just found that you gotta, with Necron in 9th edition in particular, you're kind of like that one little pincer, like you're opening up, and when you ever see the movie Troy?
Yep.
Okay, when they raided the beach and they had the shields out and they kept on marching and then they opened up to shoot? Yeah. That's exactly how Necron would play. You'd kind of scream with your scarabs because you're shielding.
Yeah.
And you're moving, you're marching up, and then you open and shoot and kill something, and open and shoot and kill something, and then you send your Achilles, which is your Nightbringer, into something and just kill it all.
Of course,
yeah, or Silent King or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you're kind of always moving in a unit and like shifting and shooting things. Now it's completely different now because you got race and they're like the bee's knees, and they're kind of like I can stay on this point and hold it. And
rates are a whole different thing.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah,
I can't wait to play them. I'm working on something.
Probably
Wait, I am not working on something.
Of them that every army should want.
Yeah, I only own 3, so I ain't gonna.
Well, it was suboptimal.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. I'm trying to get 3 more, and then I'll add a Technomancer, and we'll call it. Anyways,
we're gonna have to buy some.
So, that's a little bit about me and Tony. Now, the other thing we've done.
We'll segue for a second into. So, for me, the career started at 14, playing in Alberta, and I played till I moved to Ontario when I was 22. So it was a good 6 years of between Calgary, Okotoks, Red Deer, Edmonton, playing a lot of the tournaments there. Then taking that time off, but then moving to Ontario was a very different experience in a way. Both 15 years had elapsed, and the age demographic shifted a little bit.
Sure.
It became a little younger, but I think the average skill level in the game went up by more than a little. And it has to do with before, when it was 45-year-olds, you've got kids, you're full on into your career, you have life obligations. So you can only spend so much time doing it. And when at some point 40K became more accessible somehow to younger generations, I don't know specifically why, it costs more than it ever did, but
it sure does.
Yeah. But I would say while the average age has gone down, the average skill level has gone up, because now you've got a lot of people who are at that time in their life where you don't necessarily have kids. You're not spending 60 hours at the law office.
Yeah.
So you've got people who can dedicate their lives to it, like I did when I was 14 till 20. And you've got some fucking good players now.
Yeah.
To the point where I feel like as a kid I was, let's say, top 5%. I joked I was the tyrant of Alberta because I'd go to Edmonton and Red Deer and hustle tournaments and stuff. But then going out to Ontario with a larger player base, coupled with the age change and the skill level change, I am not top 5% anymore. And you've got a lot of really, really good players.
But do you find that when you go to playtest areas like that you do improve your skills?
Absolutely.
Like astronomically. It's like, holy crap, I lost this game because of this and this and this.
Yeah.
And then you maybe don't make that mistake, or one of those 3 mistakes you don't make the next time.
Exactly.
And then the next game, you don't make that other mistake that you made prior. And then it starts building up to you get this like solid base of where you want to be, and like, okay, well, I've actually been in this situation before, I know how to get out of this.
And for the thing in the game, you can argue the game is harder than it used to be too.
Sure.
Because back in the day you had 10 armies versus today's 20, give or take. Back then you had very limited data slates. Marines did not have 187 million data slates in their codex.
Right.
They may have been bigger than other people, but original Necron. You had Necron warriors and Necron lords, and then one day you got a monolith, and you were happy to have your 3rd unit.
Silver Tide. That's all it was. It was a Silver Tide.
Things were a little different. It was a lot easier to memorize everything that was out there. Whereas in today's age, you have an interesting mechanic where I can't play against all 20 armies in practice games, because I don't have the time to. I play, it's sad to say, but I play a lot of the armies for the first time in competitive games, and I just hope it's not top table finals, because that is the wrong place to learn how Eldar work.
I would agree, so how do fate dice work?
That sounds like cheatery.
You can replace things? Yeah.
Oh, and you have a Farseer, so it doesn't even matter what the die number is, it's just a 6?
And that's a good segue too. Like, we're not going to go into it just yet. I kind of want to get that near the end, while I talk about your lists and what you've been playing lately more. Yeah. But I want to kind of, we'll talk more matchups and how they actually matter in a tournament, and how you approach it with a certain list. Because, I mean, your list is your list, but in your head, you have certain matchups in your head that you know exactly how to approach it. Yeah. And then you can treat the other ones that you've never, ever tested with. So, again, the 20 armies, you only know maybe, say, 80 of your matchups. But a lot of them play similarly. So you can kind of use the same overall strategy, hopefully for the most part for the benefit, but sometimes you could just be wrong.
There's almost a weird sense where I didn't feel like this was the case in the past, but in today's world, there's almost a Magic the Gathering element of you have aggro decks, which is what I play. You've got your mid-range decks, which is what Cass plays, and you have, I guess, blue stupid control decks who are Eldar. I don't know.
I would say, yeah, no, Eldar's
really
more
control
control.
per se.
Yeah,
They kind of are.
they're actually more combo.
Yeah.
Let's get into
Yeah.
it. They're combo because they're just like situating their certain leaders with whatever unit,
Yeah.
and then they're showing some and not showing the other, and then still scoring points on the outside, and then changing the dice.
What's the MTG equivalent of Glasshammer? Or like high damage, low toughness? You're all 4/1 first strikes.
It's is it Blitz or yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's
We're
glass
not low
cannons.
yeah.
It's glass cannons. It's
Okay.
it's the exact same terms.
Yeah.
Funny enough, in my experience too, I found a lot of MTG players who are fed up with the game went to Warhammer. And I'm finding the community much more welcome. No offense to any Magic players out there who only play Magic or whatever. I just find the community in itself far more
Yeah.
welcome. Like there's time like I played highly competitive Magic. Right,
So
I was
you know
going
exactly how.
I went all over the states. I've been
awkward it
LA,
can get
Atlantic
at
City,
times.
Quebec City, Vancouver. Like I went everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing is with Magic is that you have a deck of cards and you play against each other, and then you sit there for 50 minutes, and that's the hour or that's the time allotted to the round.
Yeah.
And then you play, and then you're done. You say, "Okay, see you later," and you're done.
Yeah.
Right. A few times you meet like some cool guys that you had some jokes with during the game, but when it comes to Warhammer in itself,
It's a social
like
interaction.
it's a narrative between two players
It
with
is.
some dice, and that's the best way to describe it. Like you meet the person, you actually get to know them, and you kind of get their quirks a little bit too, and that's every single game. Because like every single game I've ever had, now I can go talk to the next. Oh, hey buddy, how's it going? Because we actually shared.
Well, you spend 2 to 3 hours with each other.
Yeah, well, and if it's in our Warhammer league, it could be 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
Like
Or
you're
if
sitting
you're playing
there.
me and I'm drunk, it could be 17.
Yeah, exactly, and you're like, I don't even know anymore. I don't even know the game anymore. Or like, and that's the cool thing about our league that we can kind of play anywhere and you know have drinks and I played a few league matches even here at the bar and
Nice.
it was fun.
Yeah.
So, that's what I liked about Warhammer so far. Obviously, I think the initial investment of Warhammer is much more expensive than Magic to get into the game.
Yeah.
But once you're at a point, like it doesn't, you
You hit a
spend
certain critical mass where
you spend frighteningly little. It's
Yeah.
the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
Like you don't actually spend that
Once
much
you're good.
more, and you can figure out what you need to buy. You can be strategic about it. And with Magic, it's just like it always rotates, so you always have to buy the best thing, and they get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so Magic is always rotating, but comes out with new content. So you're forced to buy the new stuff to keep
Always.
competing. In 40K, at least, obviously there is new content.
Yeah.
But if you play over 2 or 3 editions, it kind of cycles back.
Yes.
You know, like you mentioned Curly before, and he has a habit of buying the things that look awesome while he's drunk, and that's fine. But at least 2 years later, that garbage he bought before is now suddenly awesome, and now he looks like a prophet.
Oh yeah. So
A
Forge
drunken
Fiends.
prophet.
Yeah. Forge
Yeah.
Fiends is actually
No, he made fun of his Forge Fiends for their entire existence until ninth happened.
Now he's like, I don't want to play them anymore. They're
Yeah,
way
they're too
too good.
good, too good.
They're too good. That's a funny thing. Yeah. And there's another part of Magic or Warhammer that I want to get into too that it makes it so awesome is the cool factor.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just add something to the list just because it's cool.
Yep.
Like when I was making the Secret Death Guard army, I had to have Materian turned out being pretty good, but I would not have a list without Materian in it.
No.
It's just too cool.
Which terrifies me. He hard counters me at every turn.
Yeah, he's
But because I play aggro. Specifically, it seems like every army I've played in 9th and 10th is hard aggro, and Morty causes problems for me. And it was funny, there was a time where I'm theory crafting to beat you, say.
Sure.
And Mortarion is not auto-conclude. He's considered bad from a competitive point. But Cass always runs them, and Mortarion hard cucks my specific list at the time, and I'm like, God damn it!
Well, actually, I'll correct you on that. Materian is an auto-include now.
He is now, yeah.
Yeah. It's only because of his debuffs that he does.
But it's like mid-9th I'm referring to.
Midnight, yeah.
Yeah, he stopped being auto-include.
He's 450 points.
Yeah, he's an expensive boy. You can
Right?
only kill so
now
many
he's
things.
325. So yeah, and then he also stops like the minus or the I have -1 damage. It doesn't matter. Materian's there.
Yeah.
Right. So he stops any modifier within 6 inches, including OC when you get battle shocked. Like just like weird little instances that, God, he's so annoying.
Yeah.
Like as the opponent, I'd be like, right, Materian. Yeah, like he's doing his thing. Like,
Especially
-1 to wound.
ninth when he had like 18 different abilities. Like now they've condensed it to say 4.
Yeah, that was nuts.
And it was
I missed that because I missed the fact that he had a 9-inch contagion. as well. And because that's gone.
Well, and he turned off all my rerolls, so suddenly my entire white
And
scars
Overwatch
was like 6s to wound, no rerolls.
Yeah. Why?
Well, fuck me.
Yeah. But this is how I do games. This is how I play.
I spent my whole life being a 6-inch aura phalanx, and now it's worthless? I'm just a naked Spartan.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so well, why don't we get into it then? So before we get into the faction focuses, what I want to mainly do, and some of my vision for this podcast was,
lay it out.
I want to teach other players how to play optimally, because you know what, you're a highly experienced tournament player. You've been all over Canada playing tournaments, team tournaments, every kind of tournament you can think of. So you have the experience behind it. So what I want to be doing is faction focuses as well, and sharing with our viewers, saying, hey, wow, you can do that in a tournament, or like, oh, that's a cool little gotcha. I didn't understand that. Like the fight first interaction, which we can probably get into in a bit too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a cool little thing that we can teach our viewers how to play, and if they want to be better players, they can, and they can take it for what they want, or they can just listen to because we're a bunch of jackasses having beers.
Yeah.
So it's either way, but
on that note too, so in my mind, there's 3 aspects to what makes both a player and the game they're in. You have luck, which no one has control over, unless you flush your loaded dice down the toilet.
Stupid Eldari.
Yeah, or fate dice, yeah.
Okay, I'll stop.
You have your skill level, which obviously you have control over, but that's sort of a fixed number that isn't likely to change mid-game.
Sure.
And then you have army lists / game mechanics and your understanding of them. And that's going into a tournament, and if you're looking at doing well in a tournament, you can't really fix your luck. You're not going to get better mid-tournament in a way that matters, truly. So it comes down to, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, is list building is super key. If Cass and I are playing and we're equal skill level and luck we have no control over, it kind of does come down to list building, or at least knowing how the minute rules of the game interact and getting that little edge because of a 3-inch consolidation that ends up sweeping an objective for
like
5 point.
What that one particular unit does against, say, another particular unit, where that's their tech piece. And what a tech piece is someone's idea of trying to beat the meta with a little thing that can actually counteract other people's functionality. So much like we talked about before, Materian hard counters aggro decks. Or decks, lists. But it's like that little tech piece. Well, back in the day when I always ran Materian when he was considered not meta, that was that tech piece that would, at least propel my percentage points against an aggro. Yeah. Right? So having those kind of things is part of the list building and part of trying to win a tournament and take it, right? And and what I've noticed too in any kind of tournament, when a surprise list comes out there, it's completely innovative.
Yeah. Self-plug for myself, having come back from Ontario, no one had known what I'd done in Ontario for the last year and a half, and I'm a very special half-melted snowflake. So I tend to do very random things. I don't always just play the meta list. And so prior I was playing full aggro White Scar Terminator Assault or Vanguard Vets, things like that. And it was interesting coming to Calgary because people knew they learned in Ontario to respect my threat range and my charge range. And I came to Alberta and they didn't know because no one plays that shit here.
Yeah, I know.
And the number of all-star Calgarian players that I, like David Corrin, the first time I ever played him. Shout out to David Corrin, a good friend of ours now. He's a great player.
Holy.
First time I ever played him, he was
so
playing,
mechanical.
He was playing
like he's so tactical. It's a compliment. Like it's
very
very hard to be like that.
but he didn't respect my he didn't respect the fact that my Terminators can charge 2 feet on the first turn. So I engaged his Knight Army first turn and basically won the game off the first turn roll. Just because, again, people weren't used to that weird meta.
Right?
It's almost like...
That's what you call a game changer, in a way, right? Like you brought it and then it changes the meta, because every meta in certain areas should be different. Like I know there's a lot of Sisters players here in Calgary and Tyranid players. Like you have to consider those as your matchups, and Space Marines players. There's tons of them, right?
Side note, I've heard, and I haven't played Warhammer in Europe, but I hear Europe competitive 40k is a little more technical. You've got a lot more MSU armies playing the objective game, whereas North America tends to lean a little bit more my style of brute force, kill thine enemy, score points, turn 4 and 5.
They think that we're crazy out here. The reason is it's ITC formats, and they basically use different terrain rules. So and it's harder for vehicles to kind of maneuver around monsters. So having an MSU army can kind of maneuver around terrain a little bit better. So it's these slight little differences that going MSU is better for them.
So really random geopolitical hot take. I always thought it was because in North America we're used to mass army stampeding people, say like Gulf War or things like that, versus the Europeans have dealt with city-states, and you don't have the power to just take Europe unless you're Napoleon. So I'm pretty sure I'm wrong, but I'm still gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, well,
it's inbred.
I lost what to say there. Yeah, no.
When you're Milan, you can't take over all of Western Europe in one turn.
So speaking of which, why don't we get into the faction focus part?
Yeah.
So I think we're already we're 25 minutes in.
Yeah, we might have to do this more often just to cover all this ridiculous content.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we will, right? So this is only the first episode, but what I do want to focus on is a faction focus of Chaos Space Marines, as they are dominant in the meta. It looks like the meta chart that we have out here, it doesn't seem at the top. Aldari still is taking it, but from my experience, and I would speak from our teammates and everyone else's experience, is that Chaos Space Marines are very, very good.
They are. So, okay, if we're starting with Chaos and looking at that list there, you can see Chaos Space Marines in 4th. It's arguably a little bit misleading. They have the second most GT wins out of anyone other than Eldar. It goes Eldar by a lot, Chaos by not quite as a lot, and then everyone else is sort of filtering in. Mm-hmm. And you've got some up-and-comers coming as well, but just over the course of late 9th, early 10th, Chaos has been doing some work. Sorry, I should say just early 10th.
Early 10th?
Yeah, they were okay in 9th, but not compared to Index 10th.
Right.
And so I suspect we're going to see quite a few nerfs. But it depends on, you never know with GW, where they're going to go on any given day.
Yeah.
But I suspect
they're just going to nerf Drakari. Right? You don't know. Hey, we don't want to, hate on GW. I mean, it's given us a game that we love to play and everything else. But yeah, they have balancing issues for sure.
They do. And in their defense, and I'm a GW hate lover at any given time.
Sure
so
you are.
Love to hate, but and sometimes hate to love. Yeah, because it's easy to hate a multinational corporation.
Yeah.
And have a fiduciary responsibility to milk profits out of your pocket.
Oh my gosh.
Right, well, that's a different topic.
All right, let's get into the actual game that we play. So, before we get into the meta watch, let the viewers know what your list is.
Okay.
Why did you choose these things? And then we'll get into the matchups that you had, and then we can talk about every matchup that you think what you would do typically.
Sure. Yeah.
So what's your list?
So the list is pretty straightforward. It's Accursed Cultists Spam, because they're kind of amazing. Lots to say about them, because I don't think they're quite the god unit everyone thinks they are. They just fill an interesting place in the meta right now where... So if you do or do not know... part of the meta for 10th was that vehicles got really good. That doesn't necessarily mean that all vehicle armies are awesome or all vehicles are awesome, but it's common enough to see a lot of vehicles in armies, and because of that, the reaction was to spam anti-tank weapons, which also got pretty good in the game to sort of counter that. And so you've got this very light general meta of vehicle good.
Yeah.
So people bring anti-tank weapons. I bring 63 Accursed Cultists, which...
63?
Yeah, 3 bricks of 21.
Oh.
Sorry, it's 16 Accursed Cultists with a 5-man Dark Commune.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I get it.
Bring it to 21.
Yeah.
And so, because I'm running this pure infantry unit, the single best thing you can take against me is mass las gun bolter fire. Don't spend points on guns.
What about flamers?
Just bring garbage. Oh, flamers are great too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't even need to hit.
Yeah.
Also, burn the heretic.
Yeah.
So, they filled this interesting niche where everyone's bringing all this high-powered anti-tank, and if it's not a las cannon, it's a marine killer. To which 5+ invul and Accursed Cultists are like, it's the same thing. Bolter or plasma gun, it's the same to me.
Yeah. Makes sense. That's really clever.
They're kind of a counter pick, where just no one brings enough anti-infantry because no one's playing mass guard. Even orcs are mechanized elite orcs for the most part. They're not even, you're not fighting 180 boys. So no one brings massed infantry, so no one brings the minigun quantity needed to kill off these cultists, which makes them a really nice counter pick in today's meta. Which is partly why I don't think they're absolutely broken. They're just filling a... If people brought 100 bolters, I'd lose.
Sure.
But they don't.
Yeah.
Instead, it's, say Eldar with anti-marine killers, or it's, all of that stuff. So the Accursed Cultists work really well. I run Chaos Lord, 10 Undivided Chosen in a Rhino for one of the single highest DPS damage melee units in the game.
Okay.
We've got currently just one Forge Fiend. I cut one. I used to run 2. I cut 1 for more Accursed Cultists.
Okay, yeah. And also having the 1 is as an immediate threat. Like it's not quite a delete button, but it's a pretty good.
It can be.
It can be, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of want that high variance, high reward, right? So
and again, Chaos. The core of Chaos right now is that it's a bit of a lottery. Sometimes you suck on your roll and you don't get a lot done, but then you get, say, undivided strat on an undivided unit, gives you full reroll to hit, full reroll to wound. So cultists are getting +1 to hit, +1 to wound once per game naturally. So you stack all of that together, and suddenly some of these units put out so much damage, it's almost inefficient because you do too much damage. And,
oh my gosh.
A bit of a difference between my list, I run 10 Chosen Lord in a Rhino.
Yeah.
Because it's the single most highest damage you can do.
Okay.
With full reroll, it's insane.
All right, and why is that? So get into it, yeah.
So because they're Mark of Undivided, they get reroll 1s naturally, and then they can pick either lethal hit 6s or sustained hit 6s.
Sure.
Mark of Undivided.
That's from the Demonic Pact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mark of Undivided, the Undivided Strat, I can never remember the name of it, but the Undivided Strat gives you, if you are Undivided, you get full reroll to hit, full reroll to wound.
Oh my.
Yeah, so when you put that on 10-man Chosen, who are putting out...
What weapons do you have on them?
So it's 2 guys with Power Fist, 2 guys with double Accursed Weapon.
Okay,
and
so even
then
more attacks.
6 guys with Accursed. So that's 6, 12, 24, 32 Strength 5 Power Weapon attacks.
AP?
AP 2 single damage.
Yeah, okay.
But Strength 5, which is actually quite a nice number for that.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah. You fight T9 things, and you're just kind of laughing. 5+ reroll, you'll do that all day.
Yeah, sure.
Then you've got 8 Power Fist attacks. Then you've got the Chaos Lord, who can go Super Saiyan for 6 attacks. Strength 9, AP 3, damage 3, just hurts. Oh, and dead wound 6s.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, you're full reroll to hit, full reroll to wound. There might be higher damage units in the game, but they are
way more consistent.
Top 3.
Yeah, way more
to
consistent.
the point where the difference between my list and, say, Manichima's version of this, he doesn't stack all that damage together. It's probably overkill. I'm doing it so that I can try and cuck some 10-man Wraith Guard with all the fixins, stuff like that. But the reality is, it's overkill. Like, it's more damage than you need in most circumstances.
Yeah.
So that's the big hammer. We've got the Forge Fiends for some cover fire. We've got 4 Deep Striking Obliterators.
Right.
Which
and
again
they are delete unit.
And that's the thing, that undivided strat, you can do it in the shooting phase, you can do it in the fight phase.
Sure you can.
So when 3 or 4 undivided obliterators come in with their flat 6 damage point blank melta shots,
right.
Full reroll to hit, full reroll to wound, sustained 6s.
You're deleting their best
unit. They might be the single strongest shooting unit in the game. And Chaos is spoiled. They've best Terminator gun platform on a Forge Fiend for killing Terminators. You've got the best single anti-tank platform on obliterators. And then Chosen are crazy melee damage. And then I even bring Accursed Cultists.
And hey, you wanted more.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
I love Cultists. I think they're fantastic. And now, Death Guard Cultists do scout 6 inches. That's the difference between other Cultists. Yeah. But I love them. I think they're a great unit. They're great fodder. Yeah. They just come in there. They can screen out anything.
So you bring up regular Cultists. Weirdly, my favorite unit is my 10 blue inked guardsmen who are performing the role of conscript. Cultist.
Cultist, yeah.
And they're an amazing unit. That sticky objectives is so good. My favorite strategy, one of my favorite strategies, I put 1 cultist on my home objective, then I spear them out towards another objective in deployment. Then first turn, I sticky my home objective and run off and try and sticky a couple more objectives center. And if you shoot them, I don't care. They're the garbage unit I barely paid for in the first place.
Yeah.
But funny enough, the better players kill them because they're surprisingly useful.
Right.
And so, honestly, there's nothing in the Chaos Marine army that isn't awesome.
Right.
Which
I know.
is why they're up there.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
that.
I think it's definitely a force to be reckoned with. Surprised more people aren't using it more, or maybe they don't have the units, or
And to be fair,
yeah, like I'm surprised that more chaos isn't being played.
Well, and there is a financial cost to Accursed Cultist. So if you want to build a full brick of Accursed Cultist, it's $65 Canadian pre-tax for half a brick. You need 2 of those, then you pay another $65 for the Dark Commune. So they are $195 pre-tax per brick.
Oh man!
So at $585 pre-tax.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, there's a financial cost to them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. Either way.
Side note: make your own.
Yeah. And what did you do?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it.
All right.
No.
Okay. It doesn't matter. No.
Bunch of old models. Side note: if you have legacy collections of Warhammer, sometimes it's hard to turn your family farm models into Tau Fire Warriors. But Chaos holds a special place in the world where it's Chaos mutations.
Yeah.
You can be anything. That cow with tentacles coming out of it, that's a Chaos beast.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like you can kind of make up your own rules.
And it's a good thing too, again, because you are a legacy player. So you have all these older models, and that's the difference, right? Like that's the difference with Warhammer. Like you can use these, and you're using Chaos, and it's not to say that you don't go and talk to every TO before thing. Like you make sure it's okay.
Make sure it's okay.
Yeah, because you know every tournament's different, and good on the TOs for saying yes, and good on the TOs for saying no if they don't want it in their tournament. But like it is their prerogative. So
absolutely.
It's cool to see that you can do that, but same time too, like everyone still wants to like have the GW models on the thing.
There's a certain argument to you didn't pay $600 for that unit. That's not fair.
Yeah.
But we also live in a strange world where the rules are clearly in flux.
The rules are always stacked. Yeah. So, okay, so that's the list. Now,
there's also blue scribes for some lone op deep strike shenanigans, and then the Slaneshi Demon Prince Slask.
I think those blue scribes are super important units, especially nowadays. With the way 10th is structured, is that you need to have those lone op units, because when you draw capture enemy outposts, deploy teleport homers.
Yeah, what do you do?
Behind enemy lines, like when you draw these early ones, it's very difficult to score them. Even in round 2, when you're still kind of turn 1, everyone's kind of just still hiding.
You screwed turn 1, but at least turn 2, turn 3, you have a chance.
Exactly. So turn 2, you can get behind them. If the opponent made a mistake, you can really get behind them and score the maximum amount of points. Right? Like they moved off their home objective.
Blue Scribes, Celeste, and then my one squad of Nurglings are 4. And then finally 5 Warp Talons to fill out the points.
Warp Talons?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
They're so hot. I used to run more, but again, I had to pay for those Accursed Cultists somewhere.
Yeah.
I dropped all the fun things.
Yeah, I think the scary part about your list is Accursed Cultists, and they take up so much of the opponent's
attention
resources.
Well, it's a huge stat check.
Yeah.
And if you ignore it, you lose.
Yeah.
But if you focus it, you kind of lose.
Yeah, because you're still playing around them. You're playing the game around them, and then you have to deal with this like 63 models that keep coming back every command phase.
And that's the thing. You either choose to ignore them because you can't deal with them, or you have enough damage output that you focus your entire army into one brick to kill it. Or the third worst option is you do some damage to one or all of them. Because if I'm just regenerating the whole time, that is... Not only is it a waste of your firepower and points, but the worst part is when I respawn, I get a 2.9-inch bonus to my charge move.
You sure do.
Because of the way spawning...
Actually, and I want to talk about one of your recent tournaments that you were on a live stream, and that got messed up. Remember, you had the...
Yes, I was doing it wrong.
Because you still have 2 coherency... Was it... What happened?
So we were on the stream, and apparently I'm illiterate. So I learned from playing, not from reading.
For sure.
And
I played Poxwalker, so I know what happened.
So back in the past, actually, back in the day, so I used to do this with my Terminator from Apothecary, but I only had one model, so it never came up.
Okay.
When you did it with your zombies, you could chain them out. As long as the unit was in coherency, you were good, right? You didn't have to... The current rule is you can only spawn within coherency of existing models.
No, because it's never just the unit. It has to be... So when your unit was like 10 plus or more or whatever it was, it had to be... Each unit has to have 2 units within 2 inches. Yeah. So I had to basically... I couldn't chain them like that. I couldn't
chain them with 2 at the end.
Yeah, I had to basically use like units of 3.
Yeah.
Like in a triangle. Sorry, I'm probably in triangle. You guys couldn't see me in the camera, but in a triangle formation to get around it. I couldn't just go string. Like I learned in Necrons.
Yeah.
Because that was the same for Necrons, right? I couldn't just actually the old Necrons I could just go whoop and go right across, but I have to keep one 2 within 2.
And which again for let me see here. So for context, you've got single model needs to be within range of single model, then another single model. But the caveat is if you're a big enough squad, each model must be in range of 2. So this guy with the full brick over here is in range of these guys and the next guy. So it continues in the chain, but the final piece of that chain, when it's the final guy, he's only in range of the one before. So you have to leave 2.
Yeah.
And that was the workaround.
Basically, you always have to be forming a triangle.
Yeah.
Always keep the triangle and you're okay.
And so I learned in one of my first tournaments with this list that I was doing that wrong, where I was doing on the 3-inch. I was getting 6-inch bonus charge, which was so scary.
Oh, because you were
because that's how it worked before.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean that's fine.
And so we were top table finals live stream, and someone put in the chat, "You fucker, you can't do that." And I went, "Uh-oh." And so we looked it up, and it was like, "Oh, you're absolutely right. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
I've been doing it. I'd done it wrong the 2 games beforehand."
Well, hey, it happens, right?
Yeah, it does.
And it's a complicated game
because that was legal 4 months ago.
Sure, but also
But
Warhammer is a super complicated game, and the learning curve is steep. So
the rule book's that big for a reason.
Yeah, and then knowing these little nuances, like in 10th edition, I forgot that assault weapons in 10th edition they don't get -1. But it's ingrained in my head, and 9th edition is so ingrained in my head.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to, with assault weapons, you can still move and shoot, but at -1. But now you can just move and shoot. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm a host on a show, and I just learned something. I don't think I've shot an assault weapon in 10th.
What? Oh, okay.
Assault weapons are key.
Assault weapons are key because I can do things like, and these are some the I gotchas too that I hope people can learn these, and I hate I gotchas. I always tell the opponent right before, hey, this is what I do. Most people don't know this rule and how it works. This is what happens. So in a Rhino, if I have an assault weapon in the Rhino, they have cover top 2. I can show 2 guns. If one being the assault, I can literally advance the Rhino and do an action.
I didn't realize that even worked for the Rhino. That's so
right.
Awesome.
So I learned this from other podcasts and other people talking about other tournament players, and it's just like, oh my gosh, yes, you can.
Actually, and for context for viewers, so what we're talking about here is, in the past, you could only do an action if you regular moved, and then you didn't shoot, and then you did an assault. And I don't think it even mattered if you had
It's
assault
eligible
weapons.
to shoot now.
Now it's, are you eligible to shoot? So if you have an assault weapon, you are eligible to shoot, and thus you can do an action. So the gimmick, 5-man scout squads for Space Marines right now, you take one of those buttheads and give him a shotgun. And he's now the most important weapon you'll never fire. Because suddenly you can advance an action.
That's exactly it. So that comes down to what we talked about
to the Rhinos. That's hilarious.
With list building. That's what we call list building. Like you want to think about, how do I move this? So what I do is I keep in my current competitive Death Guard list, I actually have 5 Plague Marines in with Biologist Putrefier, and he has an assault weapon. So what he can do is I can move up and assault and charge. He also has a pistol, funny enough, so he can actually do actions in combat.
And for context for myself, so he's a character with an assault weapon who joins a unit who had no access to assault weapons?
He never had an assault weapon before.
Okay,
like
he does
in
now.
9th. Yeah, in 10th he does.
But does the unit he joins have access to an assault weapon?
No.
So that is a really interesting character
No, they
thing.
don't. Do they?
That character effectively gives that unit advance and action.
No, because Blight Launchers aren't assault. Or are they assault now? Yes, no, they can. No, they did. Yeah. No, Blight Launchers are... Correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. I'm actually just going off memory right now, and I don't think I haven't played a Blight Launcher in a while. Either way, but yes.
Let's say they didn't. So suddenly you have a random character joining a unit with an assault weapon, and he's effectively giving them advance and action.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is exactly what you're saying. So people that's part of being really good at the game, where if you know those little tricks, they're gotchas to a point. Like, it's not like, oh, I just ruined your game with this gotcha, but it's an ability that you may not have known you had that can suddenly grab you 5 victory points.
Right.
Which is a huge swing.
And that's why I like saying it every time I do have a matchup, but I tell people, when I do announce that they're in the Rhino, I say, also, there's an assault weapon in this. So I can move in action. So they also have a pistol, too. So he has 2 guns. His grenade is the assault weapon.
Oh.
And then then he has a pistol. Yeah. So I also can do actions in combat, essentially. if I need to.
That's another trick which I just learned recently.
Yeah.
Eldar kind of do that, where it's like, oh, your Wraith Guard are being impossible to shift on this thing, but the Spirit Seer has a pistol. Action.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't really recognize this at first either, but so that means you can conceivably deploy a teleport homer while fighting for your life surrounded by evil.
But you can't deploy... I think we have to read the rule again just to clarify, but I don't think you can deploy a teleport homer. Oh, no, you could. No, sorry.
No.
You can't cleanse unless you control the objective.
Yes.
That's what it is.
And that's
deploy you can.
And
yes.
I thought for deploy that you had to have control of the area, you couldn't be engaged.
It's just within 6 inches.
The Spirit Seer's like, no, it's fine, I got this.
Yeah. Or in the deployment zone, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of cool things that you can do.
Super small rule. Little tiny penis pistol.
Yeah.
Yet all the world of a difference.
Oh, yeah. Having eligible to shoot is all it says.
You'll never shoot that gun in reality.
And there's also another clause, too, with units that don't have guns to shoot. So Nurglings, for example. They can still do actions. But not if they're in combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the...
Okay.
Because they need a pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless a little Nurgling had a pistol, it wouldn't happen. So those are the kind of the nuances of the rules, too, that I hope anyone who's listening here can... take it and win a tournament based on 5
We're
points
have
because
a whole
of
episode on all the little rules that win games.
I would like that. Yeah, that should be a future episode too.
We're gonna have to build a list here.
Yeah, here
As
we
you
go.
and I play each other and just we'll
only
pick up a list.
we're gonna make an entire list of pistols and assault weapons, and that's the rubric.
Look at me, action, Mom!
Yeah.
I'm a hero.
We scored 99 points, but we didn't kill anybody. and that's how it happened.
Pacifism in 40K, it's a thing.
Yeah, we're just here to score.
Grim darkness of the 41st millennium, 42nd millennium now. Sorry.
So let's move on here to what was
easily sidetracked.
Yeah, well,
some clinch rules there.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. So I kind of want to. I don't know how much you remember of it. I know we kind of made this idea for this podcast a little later, but I wanted to talk about your most recent GT, which was December 4th.
It was a really long acronym, which made the title of the trophy kind of funny.
Oh, yeah, and you
there.
placed second.
No, I got fourth.
Fourth.
I played Ozzy, who's arguably the best Calgary player.
I would say so.
We played in top table finals, and that was my first time playing Eldar in 10th edition. And I'd alluded to it. That is not the time to learn. Not at all.
No.
Not at top table. Not a little lizard brain on drugs. Doesn't retain that fast enough.
Right.
And again, 40K, unfortunately, one of the downsides to 40K is that there's so much going on. You know, I remember having skipped 6th, 7th, and 8th, coming into 9th, going, this game is 4 times more complicated than it used to be. There was no stratagems back in my day. There was no relics, none of that. No stratagems? That's half the fucking game.
It's crazy.
It wasn't 9th edition.
Yeah.
They toned it back. And it's funny, me and my friends spent our whole childhood wishing 40K would get more complicated. Then I came back into 9th and had to agree that perhaps it had gotten too complicated.
But I'm going to stop you there because it got complicated, but the learning curve is actually reduced in that game because of the internet.
Oh, very true.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like you could learn what you need to do in
Goonhammer.
Goonhammer. Good shout out. You can learn, but going on to anything, Accursed Tactics, great for that too.
Yeah.
I love Discussing Resilience podcast. I also love 40K Dirtbag. He's pretty good too because he'll tell you all these little nuances, and he plays for certain armies. And I listen to a few different ones here. Vanguard Tactics is very good at it too. He'll tell you that, like Steve Boxer will tell you where to go in Art of War.
Tactical Tortoise is another
Tactical. Oh yeah, he's very good too. Trevi, yeah, I like the way he speaks.
But the Art of War guys
have it down pat. Yeah,
for sure.
Down pat.
Yeah.
They know every single faction.
Also,
they know how
Samurai
to.
Marine. That's just a good logo.
Oh yeah, and they have it down pat to what they to teach new players too. So I really enjoy that about them, and that's why I follow. And I know they have the War Room that you can subscribe to learn a lot. I've had a few friends that subscribe to Vanguard Tactics side little thing because it's a commercial video coaching session, and they've gotten better from it. So there's cool things that you can do like that. So if you ever want to get better, look at them, listen to us, listen to anyone around. The curve is way lower.
And like Cass mentioned earlier, this didn't exist when we were little kids.
No way.
I mean, the internet was kind of new. So it's a little different thing.
E-Bombs World.
Yeah, like as your internet tried to load.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Dial up. That's right. Yeah. So now it's all out there. All right. So
visible.
Let's keep it on the Warhammer here. So your most recent tournament, you got 4th. Now, what was your matchups like? What was your first round? If you can remember.
So 5 games. First was Iron Strike Space Marines.
Wow.
Which is good, but it was an example of I'm playing counter meta and he's building towards the meta. So Iron Strike Marines, really good las cannons. Lots of them. They're even mobile.
Oh,
doesn't matter to Accursed Cultists.
Yeah.
So that went well.
Yeah. Okay.
Who all did we play? To be honest, I kind of forget some of them. The big one was, I guess we'll skip some of the earlier games because you're playing some of the lower ranked players perhaps.
Yeah.
But the round 4 was the really big one against David Corrin, and he was playing World Eaters.
Yeah.
And honestly, David Corrin's a great player. World Eaters are really interesting, and we ended up having a 67-66. I won by a point. And entirely my fault, but we had to call it turn 4 because I took too long playing the game there. We didn't play with a chess clock, and I mean we were having.
Do you normally?
Sorry.
Do you normally play with a chess clock?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Because I never have either. I'm pretty quick.
I'm not the fastest player, and unfortunately, I'm playing a mass horde where it just takes time to move. And you think, oh, you don't have shooting; it should take less time. Yeah, but when I'm advanced and charging every turn, and then we're in melee from turn 1 on, where I get to swing, then you get to swing. Like, it actually just takes a lot of time. And so we ended up timing out and having 67-66, and it was super close.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Holy.
And then that took me to top tables versus Aussie.
Let's go to round 3.
Honestly, Cass, I've played almost 200 competitive tournament games in the last year and a half. Again, I was out in Ontario, so in Southern Ontario, there are 3 tournaments a month if you're willing to drive an hour.
Yeah.
So I don't remember some of my games.
Okay, hey, that's fair.
But the ones I remember were David Corrin being an absolute boss, and I've never lost to World Eaters. I nearly lost to his World Eaters.
Yeah,
and then
he's an incredible
he actually
player.
Beat me in a practice scrim later on. So
with the Grey Knights?
No, with World Eaters.
Okay,
he tried with Grey Knights.
All right,
and then
if we don't remember the tournament, and hey, we'll just stop there in the tournament because I know it was a month away. When we do these more often, for our viewers. Yeah, well, with our viewers, you'll hear more tournament updates because you have one coming up here in Edmonton in a couple weeks.
Yep. Don't forget Attack on Cax.
And then we're the bar is also featuring the bar that actually we're filming this podcast in right now. We have a bar here with a podcast studio built in. They're doing a full Warhammer tournament here.
Yeah, a doubles
2v2 tournament. Super fun. Yeah. It's gonna fit the atmosphere. We're doing that this Sunday. Super excited. Thank you for Adam Green for organizing it, taking a load of stress off of
Adam Green's a gem.
Off of Cax here. So it's gonna be super fun. Yeah. I'm super excited.
No, he's one of my favorites here.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah. So why don't we go through your matchups? So now that you've played Oz, how do you deal with Eldari?
So
with Chaos Space Marines.
With Chaos Space Marines specifically. So I'm kind of in a decent spot. Again, Aussie's arguably number 1 in Calgary. Technically the only person to beat me in competitive play in Calgary since I got back into it. He's beat me twice, and those are my only losses.
All right,
in like 7 tournaments. So Eldar are tough. You can build them a bunch of different ways. I just recently against the Evolution Gaming guys, they were kind enough to scrim me with a 30 Wraithguard Eldar list. And on paper, that sounds absolutely terrifying. I don't think it's the optimal list. I actually beat that list quite decently because Accursed Cultists don't fear D-cannons. It's a bolter or a D-cannon. It kills me just the same.
Yeah.
So that went well, but versus, in my opinion, better, more generalist Eldari lists. I'm going to call them Eldar and Dark Eldar for eternity.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Eldar is Eldari, Drukhari is Dark
Eldar.
Yeah,
it turns out you can't copyright Dark Eldar or Imperial Guard. Napoleon
Lord of the Rings was there first, man.
Yeah.
They definitely were.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, so
Eldar, they do some things really well. It's mass MSU. Every one of their 80 point units, does some crazy damage, and they're hard to catch.
And I'll stop you there for the viewers who don't know. MSU is the minimum squad unit size.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or I thought it meant multiple small units.
No, it's minimum squad unit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Minimal size unit, or
and
one of the two.
The definition being, instead of running, my chaos list runs 4 giant bricks of things and then a couple other things.
Yeah.
A pure MSU army. I know Ozzy once ran a 20-unit Eldar list.
This is all 5s.
20 units.
Fives.
Every single unit cost 85 to 120 points.
Oh my
gosh. He auto wins objective games.
Yeah, easily, right?
You're focusing. It's an interesting counter. So we were talking earlier about my my chosen single highest damage output in the game. It's like 375 points.
Like killing a 5-man unit doesn't matter.
Yeah, he'll feed me 5-man units all game long and not give a shit.
Yeah,
because it doesn't
They're
matter
fodder.
to him. So again, another counterplay in a sense.
Yeah.
And so that's usually what you see with Eldar. And so again, I've only fought Eldar once in 10th edition against Ozzy, and then one now.
Well, what did you learn? So what would you do differently?
Go first. That really helps. For me, getting my Accursed Cultists into the center of the board so that on turn 2 I'm hitting anywhere on the board with my advanced charge was really big. I did not go first. That was a problem.
Okay.
And really just engaging. If you can jump them, get in their face, restrict their movement. The second they can't just go, oh, okay, I'm going to go 20 inches around you to do my objectives, they have a bad time. Most good Eldar players will play fixed objectives, one of them always being deploy teleport homers, and that means they have to get in your deployment zone, which for little spindly Eldar isn't always the nicest
They can deep
thing.
strike the lone up, though.
They can deep strike lone up, but again, they have to be in your deployment zone or on center. And when I live in my deployment zone initially, and then I live on center being my army, that's not always the simplest thing for Eldar.
Sure, okay.
And so I would say, in my experience, now, as much as I've only played Ozzy once in Eldar in 10th, I do have a lot of experience playing Harlequins in 9th edition.
Okay.
Who, to be honest, play similar to kind of how Ozzy plays, or better Eldar lists.
They're more in the fight phase, though, aren't they? The Harlequins?
They were both. They had a lot of shooting between the Death Jester and their all their little vehicles.
Yeah.
They actually did have some really strong shooting too. All the troops running fusion pistols, things like that. So again, I feel like the better way to beat Eldar is to put pressure on them. As long as you can maintain being close enough to them where, they need to be 2 feet away from you. If you're a proper assault unit, right? So if they end up being 18 inches from you, that's an easy charge. And if you can touch them, they will break. But catching them is hard. And then surviving them blasting the shit out of you is also, tricky.
Right. And you said you tried fixed objectives. Actually, your third round was against Ultramarines.
I know. You figured it out against Alex Reben, who is another pretty good player.
Very good player.
And
I always enjoy playing him.
Yeah. I played him 2 or 3 times now. And he's always been a blast.
Me too. Yeah.
I like the guy.
Yeah.
But it's another interesting situation where he doesn't run pure meta. I remember you and I were sort of talking about his list and going, oh, he didn't take a biologist in his aggressors. How strange.
No apothecary, that was very strange. But again, he also
did
ran
some other things.
He did
double Land Raider.
Double Land Raider, one being a Crusader.
Yeah, 1 Crusader, 1 Rego.
Yeah, and it was cool.
Well, and the joke
really
joke
cool.
is a lot of people go, "Oh, you brought a Crusader instead of a Redeemer. That's weird." My Accursed Cultists were like, "Oh God, mass bolters, no!"
Yeah.
I killed that thing first turn.
Yeah.
Every time I play him, I target his bolter platform.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show when you get out of your own garage and stop playing your 2 best friends, you enter this magical world of there are 20 plus factions, and then Space Marines are really 6 detachments with 5 different flavored colors, which actually is more like 12 armies.
Yeah.
So really, Warhammer's almost more like 40, 50 armies in terms of specific playstyles.
Which is really cool.
Which is cool. And suddenly you have a Land Raider Crusader, maybe less optimal, but bolters scare Accursed Cultists, so he was not wrong in that moment.
And then just even having his aggressors charge out of it's just nuts.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's super annoying. And then they could get exploding. They oath the target, and then you're just like, okay, that's gone.
Yeah.
Any oath is like, that's gone. That target's gone. The target's gone.
So my buddies have been saying, hey, Anthony, you're doing all right, but have you tried fixed? And I went, why would I do fixed? I keep getting 95 pluses. It turns out that's actually the correct way to play Chaos. You do cleanse, and you take deploy teleport homers, which you can do on center, and you go, hi, center's mine, and you do your actions.
You can cleanse with 1 unit on 2 objectives. What, you didn't know that?
I didn't.
No,
I'm such a scrub. That's what my nurglings are for. Nurglings can't.
All right, so
we're learning so much today.
Well, yeah, so I play fixed quite a bit.
Okay.
I play Death Guard. I have to. I cannot move.
You need to pick the ones that are
I'm not there unless I'm running maybe 3 floated bloat drones, right? Can't run 4, so I have to run 3.
No.
So what you can do is if you string along. So what I do is I string along cultists or I string along nurglings, depending on what. Nurglings aren't always the case because it depends on the mission, because sometimes you actually add an extra objective, so then that's what actually can matter.
Yeah.
But if you can be in range of 2 objectives, if you cleanse, you're just cleansing with that unit, but it cleanses on both objectives. The reason why they made it the rule that way is because of knights. So if you're ever a knight and you have a base and you can be on 2 objectives that we can cleanse, because there's no other way of doing it, because if you're a knight player and you cleanse on 2 different objectives, you take out 2 big shooting units.
Oh, it's
now,
brutal.
Say you put an assassin, but the assassin's probably deploying or doing something else. So say you bring in a little lone guy, he can cleanse on that one, and then you have to get out one of your awesome shooting unit.
Knight.
Yeah, like why would you do that? So that's the reason they do it that way,
Interesting.
and you can totally do it. So with your Accursed Cultists,
you
half the time you're not going to do it, but sometimes you can. You be in that situation.
So again, this is great educational purpose.
Oh, okay, great.
Because I didn't realize you could cleanse multiple objectives, which suddenly
you're just cleansing once, though.
I can stretch 21 Accursed Cultists across 3 objectives.
Right, but you only get points of 2.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, in that circumstance, and the reason so better Chaos players than I will run more MSU, so more smaller units. So, for example, I run 10 Chosen in one group with a Chaos Lord and a Rhino for maximum carnage. Better players than I seem to run Chaos Lord with a 5-man with an additional 5-man in the Rhino. You could even save some points and just take Legionaries instead of Chosen, is one thing I've seen Manny Chima do. And the point being that you have all these options that can do actions or contest actions, things like that, and 5 Chosen and a Chaos Lord is still a lot of damage output.
Yeah.
And so it's probably more efficient. And again, better players than I are doing this. I just like massive mailed fist. and there's times when you're like, oh, I need to kill the toughest thing in the game. Thank God I have 10 Chosen.
And in a Rhino, too.
Yeah, in a Rhino for that extra
They're right
launch.
up there. And Rhinos are just the best unit.
For context, Chosen all advance and charge, advance and shoot naturally. So, yeah, 3 inches out of a Rhino, 6-inch move, D6 charge, 2d6, or D6 advance, 2d6 charge.
Good.
Yeah.
It's too good.
All Rhinos should have little catapults that they launch the Marines out of.
All right. Well, okay. So we're not really getting down here. We got about.
No, we're making very little progress.
Yeah. Well, so we'll talk about. Have you done much of Leagues of Votann? Have you gone against them before?
I have fought them once now in 10th. They're pretty good. They have some structural disadvantages built into the list, being that they are generally slow. Votann on foot don't go anywhere fast. They're kind of Death Guard, but they can be faster in vehicles. They can deep strike, so they have some options to give them some wiggle room. But then they also have kind of short range firepower. Most of their guns are kind of 2 foot. Some of their longer range stuff is 3 feet, which is usually sufficient in the game of 40k. But I mean, real men's guns are 72-inch range. A battle cannon or something. So so comparatively, they're short range. So there are times that they can be messed with. Now, obviously, I don't play Eldar or Leagues of Votann personally, but I feel like Eldar probably kind of like fighting Votann because they're slower and have shorter range. It allows them to, my jet flights go, I get to be Eldar.
Yep.
So I suspect that's kind of a decent matchup for them. Although if we have any hardcore Eldar or Votann players,
please
let us know.
Leave in the comments.
Tell me I'm dumb and tell me why.
And hey, if we got rules wrong, you let us know.
Yeah.
Because it's a complicated ass game.
There's a lot of rules interactions.
We could be totally wrong, but we'll see.
We're not always wrong.
Not always.
But when we are, it's spectacular.
Yeah, and hey, we'll say
it's top table on stream.
Yeah. All right. Black Templars is 55% of win rate in the meta.
So anytime you mention a loyalist Space Marine name and this chart, you have to explain the asterisk behind that. They're referring, in this sense, to Black Templar units being part of a vanilla Marine detachment of some kind. So some of the popular ones right now are, to their credit, Black Templars playing the Black Templar detachment. That is good, and it's one of the only subchapter detachments that's truly good. Most, like, Blood Angels play something else. Space Wolves, no one plays Space Wolf detachment. You do the White Scars Advance Charge on your Thunder Cav.
Right. Okay.
That one. So Black Templars do a good natural Black Templars list, but they have a couple other bonuses that no other Marines have. They get multi-meltas for an additional 5 points on a lot of their vehicles, which might not settle. It's not nothing. You're trading a Stormbolter or a Heavy Stubber.
I also play Sisters. Multi-melters are amazing.
Yeah. Not what they were in 9th,
no.
But for 5 points, you'll take it on average.
I do it on Morven Vol Paragon Warsuits, which gives full hit rerolls of. It's Commander reroll.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. That's when it's amazing.
Fuck, we get sidetracked so easily.
Yeah.
Multi-Meltas used to be Strength 8.
It's Strength 9, though.
Now they're Strength 9. The problem is everything that used to be Toughness 8 is now Toughness 10 or higher.
Everything went higher.
So multi-meltas are in this weird spot where a lot of the stuff they're trying to kill, they're wounding on 5s.
Yeah.
Anytime you can get a wound modifier onto those meltas, you are loving it.
Yes.
So some good examples: Black Templar multi-meltas in an Iron Strike detachment get 1 free reroll to hit or wound or damage.
Okay.
So suddenly, when you're wounding on 5s against the Land Raider, but you've got an inbuilt free reroll, that multi-melta is now money.
Yeah, you increase your chance by 17%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. Black Templars also have access to Crusader squads. As well as their other Black Templar specific things. But Crusader squads are interesting because you don't have to... You think Black Templars, I'm going to smash your face with my chainsword. Not necessarily. Crusader squads, 65 points. You take 1 las cannon, 1 plasma gun, a power fist sergeant with a combi weapon or a stormbolter, and then 2 schmucks to stand there and eat shit. And for 65 points for a squad that you could reserve bomb, or frankly, a 65-point las cannon's not a waste. And remember, that squad now has 1 free reroll to hit, or wound, or damage. So suddenly, single las cannon cheap units are legit. I'm not a true Black Templar player. I just do it for the meta. But like Sword Brethren are really awesome. They've got great characters. So Black Templar they're Marines plus. And I mean, to be fair, all subchapters are Marines plus, which is an unfortunate reality.
What do you mean by Marines plus?
Well, so if I'm playing vanilla Marines, I get only access to the base codex. Say I play White Scars, I get the base codex plus Khosrow-Khan. If I play Black Templars, I get the base codex plus all my vehicles get bonuses. With the multi-meltas, I get access to different rules, extra detachment that the other guys don't have, Sword Brethren, all the various, say Dark Angels get Deathwing Terminators. They get all the Raven Guard stuff, all the special land speeders. So suddenly you get your Marine Codex plus everything else.
It is interesting with Space Marines. There's a lot you can do. What about the Vanguard attachment? Why don't you tell me about that one?
So I haven't played it myself, but I have fought against it. And to be fair, Accursed Cultists ruin a lot of playtesting because they're unique and stupid.
Yep.
But Vanguard has some huge potential. Infiltrating 10 Terminators, that can do some saucy things.
Yep.
That fallback D6 inches or auto 6 if you're Phobos.
It's amazing.
Is one of the best abilities in the game.
Agreed. And the people who do have it it helps. Eldar.
And not to encourage gotching your opponent, because it is somewhat unsportsmanlike, but Jesus Christ, that is a gotcha. When you forget that's a thing and you're like, I charge, I'm 8 inches away from you, and you're like, I move 6 inches back. And now you're sitting there in the middle open with your pants down.
There's a few armors that can do that. Now, do you know how to beat
Eldar.
it? Yeah, Eldar is one of them.
Marines got an Eldar ability.
Grey Knights can do it too.
Yeah.
And Necrons can do it in the hyperphase.
I remember there was a game in Cax Bar here that it was the most innocent hard gotcha I've ever seen, where it was 4 people playing, everyone's drinking, 3 of the 4 players were much newer, more casual, and so a bunch of Grey Knights in the center of the field, Thunderwolf Cav dive right near them.
Yeah.
Like, it's obvious that the intent is the Thunderwolf Cav are going to murk these poor Grey Knights.
Mr. Vios.
Yeah.
Boom.
And he was just casually, he's like, okay, I removed them from the board. And the Space Wolf guy's like, what do you mean? He's like, see right here in the rules? You're fucked.
Yeah.
It's like, and in a tournament, that would be unsportsmanlike. In a casual game of Drink Hammer between 4 players, of which 3 don't truly know how to play great, it was like the most innocent gotcha. You're like, you just cucked him so bad.
Yeah, well, fuck you, man.
This is what Eldar do for every day of their lives.
So you know how to beat that, though? And it actually will probably pertain to your list.
We're talking Vanguard still?
We're going to talk about people doing that extra move.
So the trick is they either move D6 or up to 6, or Eldar move 7.
Yeah.
So the closer you can be, the better. If I'm 1 inch away from you after my move, or my advance, say, you falling back D6 doesn't affect my 1 inch
I have another
charge.
trick for you then. Okay, so I have another trick. Yes.
Oh, I'm interested
now,
for tricks.
And here's the other I gotcha.
Okay.
So this is all part of that gamey nonsense of the game and knowing, and I hope viewers actually can understand this too. So what you do,
and stuff.
so what you do is, say you're in a Rhino transport. You need to be in a transport for this to work.
Okay.
You go in a Rhino transport. You go from 9.1 inches away from them. 9.1. Right, you're just outside of 9, so it doesn't trigger their 9-inch. Oh, I'm gonna go Mr. Vios, or I'm gonna move 6 inches back, Space Marine, or or D6 back, or Eldar move 7.
Yeah.
You go 9.1 inches away, and then you deploy. The deploy doesn't count as a move.
Oh, so I get to teach you one thing finally.
Great.
You're actually incorrect. I thought it was that way too. So David Corrin and I spent 20 minutes looking this up because it was the exact same thing. It was. He had his Terminators behind my whole army. Mm-hmm. I had to turn units around to go deal with his Terminators. And the question was, in which specific circumstances do I trigger the option for you to use your Missive Demos and teleport away?
Yeah.
So, doing deploying out of a transport, you're correct, is not a move. So that specifically does not trigger them being able to get the fuck out.
Okay.
But when you deploy out of a vehicle, even if you are only allowed to move or advance, you are not allowed to remain stationary. So if you choose not to move, you're making a 0-inch move action.
Whoa.
You're not allowed to remain stationary. And the reason we were looking this up was we had to figure out, because this was a practice game for him, testing LVO stuff. And so the question was, how can I try and get around your get out of jail free card? Because that's what I was saying. Okay, if I'm just 9.1 away, it doesn't trigger. And then if I deploy, that's not a move order.
Right.
And you only get to do it in response to a move action. But it turns out when you deploy out of a transport, you are required to move or advance. And maybe the wording's a little bit different, but that's the context.
You're required to do it.
You cannot remain stationary upon deploying out of transport. And fair enough, you just moved 3 inches. You opened the door and moved out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there is a move action.
Yeah.
Regardless, there was a move. Wow. So.
Bam.
No, that's great. And I'm so glad you taught me that.
Tactics. It's minor, fine points of 40K.
But this is what makes a game. This is what makes a game.
Cass and Tony.
Yeah, Cass and Tony. I'm like,
the finer points.
I've been maybe doing this to too many people. I don't know. But, because, like, I was going against an Eldar player this last week, and I was like, and I'm in.
Oh, there's a little, like, fine print at the bottom. Does not apply to Eldar. Fuck those guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, so you didn't do nothing wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I won. Hardest match. One of my hardest matches I think I ever had, but I won.
Yeah, it helps when they can't fall back from your charge.
Well, and it helps if I get my Death Shroud in and just kill something.
Yes.
Right? And they're amazing at that. And anyway, I had ways around it, and Materian probably made too many saves that he should have. So that's when that luck factor kind of comes in a bit, right? It wasn't always the case. All right, let's move on. We got how's your mirror match? I guess it's different. Because you're playing something different.
It is different. I mirror match well. Again, I've only lost to Aussie in a limited number of events, like only 5 events since September, October. But I guess I do well into mirror match because if they don't spam Accursed Cultists ruin other Marines. You've got the Torments in the Accursed Cultists. They're D6 plus 2 attacks, Strength 5, AP 1, Damage 2. Mm-hmm. So, 6 models average 33 attacks. Assuming I have my +1 to hit, strat going, +1 to wound strat going, or not strat, once per game racial ability or unit ability.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm getting potentially full rerolls, or at the very least reroll ones. Those 6 torments will kill 15 Marines just straight up.
Yeah.
Like I swing with 33 attacks, and then I end up wounding with 38 because sustained hits and full rerolls and +1 to hit +1. Like it gets silly, and then sure you have a 4+ save, which is fine, but every 1, 2, 3 you roll, you lose.
It's 50%.
Yeah. So I do pretty good into other chaos.
Okay. Well, how would you go against orcs as a matchup?
So I've only fought them twice now.
Yeah.
I do well. I thought I would have more trouble because, orc horde with Sluggaboy, or not Sluggaboy, Choppaboys.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
Choppas
real.
are melee bolters, right? So the answer to kill me is bring 100 bolters. The problem is, no one actually brings 100 boys.
Mm-hmm.
They take elite orcs in trucks with fancy characters and stuff. And again, it's this weird interaction where Accursed Cultists counter so many things. Where, okay, Gadsgulthraka, the biggest, baddest orc in the whole known universe, runs up, hits on 2s, probably gets rerolls. I don't play orcs. Wounds on 2s, gives no fucks. AP all of it, damage tons. 5-up, I'm fine. Oh, and I failed my 5-up. Okay,
Feel no
you
pain.
killed a 6-point mutant.
Oh, and then
So
you
it's
feel
just,
pain
it's just a
after that
problem.
too. Yeah.
Gadskull can kill 7 baby mutants per turn.
But then you're just
give or
holding
take.
him up. You're holding him up.
I hold him up, and then those torments will hit back.
Yeah.
It's only AP1, and that's the thing. Anyone on the 2+ save, I have trouble killing 2.
Sure.
I mean, for people looking to cuck me at the next tournament, bring army-wide 2-up save and 200 bolters, and you'll have a great time.
The problem is when you do that, when you bring in
lose to everyone else.
You lose to everyone else, right?
Which is why it's a great counter.
I kind of want to segue a bit, just because we do a lot of segues.
Yes.
Just because I love tournaments.
Segue corner.
Tournaments should always be approached in a rock, paper, scissors format. So what that means is, paper beats rock, rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper. Okay.
And then don't have Spock at the end.
Yeah, and no spot.
Eldar.
But
Eldar
what Tony's
they're
list
both
is
pointy
doing,
ears. Damn it.
what Tony's list is doing is being that scissors thing. So if everyone brings in anti-vehicle and the rock is the vehicle unit and everyone brings in anti-vehicle, then
paper in this
then it's paper. So then no, you're scissors, because then you're going to kill anyone doing anti-vehicle because they can't kill you, right? And then the anti-vehicle can kill the vehicle they want, but the vehicle is not necessarily killing you, right? Because of the way you situated your list. So you made it like an immune scissor.
It is kind of an immune scissor,
right?
A very tough scissor,
right? So that's the way.
Rust proof.
Yeah, that's the way. That's the way you win tournaments. That's the way you innovate. That's the way you push yourself forward in tournaments by understanding what the meta is, and then what is your scissors. Because if rock and paper are going to be the top tables, well, if paper's always beating rock, you got to bring scissors.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point you touch on, because there is that rock paper scissors aspect for sure, and I guess I would just say it's something that's really helped this iteration of my competitive play recently, is by playing the weird rust-proof scissors that no one sort of expects. I'm in this beautiful niche zone where half the armies I play just physically can't deal with me, and then when I play the really good players and I have that list advantage, that helps elevate my scrub ass to a higher level kind of thing.
And here's the funny thing too, because we almost got paired up in our league.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's
and
the last table.
The last person I want to play is your Death Guard, where you just turn off my abilities and stuff.
So I was just like, okay, we paired up, and then our buddy, one of our other teammates, calls us, and he's like, hey, how are you going to beat him? I'm like, I'm just going to run flamers. I was like, what do you mean? I'm just turning all my things to flamers. Because in this league, you can change your list and gear, and I'm sure he'll gear it towards me. But
for sure.
Yeah, I would just run flamers.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you said that was your weakness.
What I would do against you.
I don't know, but that would be like, hey, he's going to be my face. That's all I can do. And if I can't get it, then I lose.
Yeah.
Right? But
no, flamers are a great answer, though.
Yeah, but that's all I would. I also have Death Shrouds, and I actually wouldn't deep strike them. I'd leave them in front as fodder in front. So if you moved, I could Overwatch.
Yeah.
Like I literally had a plan.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy.
Yeah. I was like, I'm just going to do that. Because
I was in your brain for at least an hour.
Wow, jeez.
That's sensual.
Well, I do, in the league, I do plan my matchups. So what I do, but I don't, in this year, I actually didn't change my list once.
So you just late at night, you're in bed with the wife, staring deep into your eyes.
No, but I didn't
and you're
change
like,
it.
Flamers.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Oh, I can see your list. It's all infantry. I'm like, all right, they die from flamers.
No, you're staring into your wife's eyes at the time. Can't see my list.
Making babies.
Yeah, making babies.
Flamers.
Additional babies.
Yeah. But it's in this league in particular, I really like playing the league. So thank you, Mike.
Big tip of the hat.
It's amazing. It's fits my schedule. I'm
Kept like 34 delinquents in line.
I'm a wildly busy guy, and I can do it. So I love doing it. It's really fun. And yes, I do plan for my matchups, but I don't change. I try not to change the list. I have not in this league. I haven't, but in other ones I have. But in this one I haven't because I want to challenge myself not to. But I still go into a game plan. So the coolest thing about this league is that you can understand what the matchup does.
Yes.
And then approach it differently.
So some people might see that in a negative view where it's like, oh, I know I'm fighting X army, so I'm going to change my list to fight that. I think that is a huge content bonus for a league where I think that's brilliant. One game every 2 weeks, and I spent 13 of those 14 days plotting and scheming on how could I do better against Cass's Death Guard.
Yep.
That's a beautiful thing. That it creates engagement,
but
it allows me to play models or gear that I might not have used in the past.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. And I can say without feeling like the scumlord I am, when I fought David Corrin in the finals, I very much tailored my list to fight the Word Eater's army that I've already played before against an opponent I know is both good, but I also know how he plays to a degree. So I definitely shifted my army to cuck him.
And why wouldn't you? And the coolest thing about it, though, too, is that if you
he
don't...
had the same opportunity.
But yeah, exactly. If you don't, you're playing at a disadvantage because they're also doing that.
Yeah.
Right? And especially if you're playing the top tables like what we do. And, not to boast or nothing like that or toot our own horns, but, like, we generally play in the topper tables. And, like, if you're not doing that, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
So, because they're doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
every
absolutely.
other opponent, like... I've gone against top players. Like, of course they're running plasma guns against a Terminator list. Of course they are, because they want to kill Terminators, right? And as Death Guard, you play a lot of Termies.
And some people hate that about the game, and other people embrace it with open arms. And I'm definitely in that camp. I agree. I can understand the argument of saying, that it kind of sucks to do that, but like honestly, if you're not building your list to be competitive, you're going to struggle to hit midfield of the tournament bracket. And that's not inherently a bad thing. It's not like in NHL that we're like, we just play with 2 forwards and that extra defenseman really helps us.
Yeah, but
you play the optimal way because that's how you play things at a professional level. You do the optimal thing, and then the minor things are what differentiate you between the next team.
Absolutely.
We do things a little bit different, not completely different like idiots.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of it too. And you don't have to, because like we said earlier today, is there's a cool factor, and you should be playing it. And if you want to play things for a cool factor, go ahead. Like, you should play with what you want and what you like.
Yes.
Now, play optimally, do the tricks. Don't deploy with 9.1 inches and think you're going to get extra charge out of it. Apparently, I was wrong there. But, but have these like little tricks in your mind that will help you, win a game or get that extra 5 points, like an assault rifle in.
Because again, you can't control luck, and assuming equal skill level between you and your opponent, the only deciding factor really is pre-game list building, how you deploy your army, how do you utilize player placed terrain.
That's a big one too.
There's an
player
art
place
to
is
that.
Nuts.
It is nuts. I love it.
Yeah,
I spent all of 9th edition making buildings my bitch. I love it.
Yeah, player place is really good.
It adds an element to the game, a strategic element that you did not have before. And then just to nail the point home, there's nothing worse in this game than playing on a tournament with an organizer who set up the terrain like an idiot, and then you play Tau and lose before you get your first turn. Because, you can't hide anything.
Well, that's why I like and here's for G-Dub here, but that's what I like about it is that they actually have those terrain layouts.
Yeah.
Particularly certain missions and everything. I actually like those.
It
makes sense. The footprints are there. The footprints are a wide difference compared to the 9th, and I'm just saying, oh my gosh. You really have to be strategic on your footprints.
You do.
But it's a good element of the game. It makes it
element.
good. It makes it even and fair.
Yes.
Right? And then when it's fair, well, nothing's really fair. So you gotta.
Yeah.
That's when the good players start to shine.
Well, average players rely on luck to win. Good players make their own luck.
That's right. Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess we are winding down here. I wanted to kind of go through most of the list
we have
here.
so much more content, but at the end of the day, it sounds like we're going to be doing this more regularly.
Yeah, so
this is maybe the last thing, talk about the team and stuff like that?
Yeah, I would like to talk about the team. Why don't you kick it off, because you know what? You brought Bloodbath here to Western Canada.
Yeah.
So why don't we... And we are Canadian, by the way.
Yes, very much Canadian. Proud.
A.
Maple syrup. If you cut me, I'll bleed.
Yeah, I'm not wearing red flannel today.
Real sticky.
But we got some red in our team, so we're called Bloodbath and Beyond. That's our team. We're Bloodbath and Beyond the West District.
Oh.
Because we're out in Calgary, Alberta, and we're here at Cax Bar and Podcast. It's a bar down in Calgary. And let's let them go.
So we got Bloodbath and Beyond. So again, I moved out to Ontario about 15 years ago, and 2 years ago got heavily back into competitive 40K. Again, there's a ton of tournaments in Ontario, so it's a great place to be if you're looking to spend your life playing competitive Warhammer. So out there, I met up with Hamza and Mike, who were the founders of Bloodbath and Beyond, and they welcomed me with open arms, and I've been playing with them ever since. Unfortunately, I made the choice to move back to my hometown of Calgary, abducted my fiance and dragged her out here, and those guys were gracious enough to allow me and now Cass to do Bloodbath and Beyond West. And so basically we're the Alberta BC chapter of Bloodbath and Beyond. Anyone who doesn't know them, they're one of the top 5 competitive teams in Ontario. Further context, and we'll talk more about this on other episodes, but team events where you have 2, 3, 4, 5 players per team, even I've heard of 8-player team events, that is the pinnacle of competitive 40K, which we will talk much more about later. We don't have time today. But the point being, they're one of the better team clubs out in Ontario. Great guys. They run their own leagues, much like Mike Whitfield has done for us here. Same thing. Every time we go to tournaments, we make up like 20% of the player base, and it's just a big group of guys and girls playing games together. And so we've been able to export that out to Alberta because I couldn't leave my original dream team behind.
Yeah.
And so now we got Cass and the rest of the Boxcar Boys doing that with us, and we're all based out of this wonderful establishment, Cax.
Yeah, so we
have our own club bar.
So
fuck yeah.
we play Warhammer at the bar, we film podcasts at the bar, we drink at the bar, and we
really?
we do all those things. It's right downtown Calgary, and that's where we film this podcast. And this is our first episode of doing it for Bloodbath and Beyond. This is me and Tony's own thing. We're starting this on our own. We're going to be both hosts of it.
Bloodbath Tactics.
Yeah, Bloodbath Tactics is what we're going to call it. And I hope you guys like it and follow us for more tournaments. We are a relatively newer chapter here in Calgary.
Yeah. Disrupting the status quo, though.
We're trying to, we just want to build a community.
I feel like you and I already have.
We just want to build the community and get people involved. I mean, I love this game. I'm excited just to talk about it. I love talking Warhammer. I love swearing. I love drinking, and I love learning more about the game and being better, because I have a competitive drive in me, and I always want to be better, and I always want to just improve it, and joining this team has been, it's pretty exciting. So we can do it. We can make it happen. We are at our headquarters at Cax Bar and Podcast. It is downtown Calgary, as I've said. What we do is we film podcasts out of here. You can rent it out. You can come here just for a good time at the bar. We do trivia nights. We do a whole bunch of stuff here, and it's a lot of fun. And honestly,
New Year's was pretty good. 36 hours ago.
Yeah, it was a while. And I mean, we host all of the Warhammer. We have a big Warhammer tournament we're hosting here, 2v2 tournament, team tournament. Called Attack on Cax. Come check it out. It is on BCP. So Adam Green is at the TO, and it's going to be really fun.
Corn bless that man.
Oh gosh, Corn bless him for sure. Even though he's an Eldari player.
He's a good player. He plays whatever he needs to play to do good.
Yeah, well, he's Team
And
Canada.
I understand. Drilled and magnetized my way into a Chaos Space Marine army.
That's right.
It took me 2 weeks.
But if you guys want more, or if you have any more comments and maybe things we can do better, or you want to hear more stuff, what we do want to do is focus on our faction focus. Going through every single faction, and we'll be bringing on some top players in Canada, talking about particular factions and how they approach the meta and how they approach different matchups. and then hopefully you can learn from it. So
Yeah.
what we want to do is that's our grand vision, and you'll see us more in the future. This is our first episode, so hey, follow. It does go a long way, and subscribe. It means the world to us, and we're just here to talk Warhammer and drink beers at the end of the day.
There we go.
If you do like it, let us know. Okay, thank you very much. And you want to say something else to say goodbye there, Tony?
No, just salut.
Salut. All right, man. Have a good day. Bye.
Cheers. Nice.